All right, welcome back to another episode of the Eternal Athletes Podcast. We are so honored and blessed today to have our guest with us today, Mallory Gregory. She is a gymnast at the Ohio State University. She was actually this year's 2025 FCA Female Athlete of the Year. If you're unsure what that is, that's Fellowship of Christian Athletes. She's a senior at Ohio State right now. And we had a chance to speak with her previously and get a chance to get to know her and her story. And we're excited for her to share her mission for Christ, how she carries that out through her athletic career, how it's gotten her through some challenging times in her athletic career as well, and why that faith is so important to her during her athletic career, both on and off the, I want to say, field or court gym mats. Is that what it would be?
Yes.
On and off the mat. All right. So thanks so much for joining us, Mallory.
Yeah, thanks for joining, Mallory.
Yes. Yes, thank you, Ryan and Erin, so much for having me today. Such a blessing.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so I wanted to start off, like we like to start off with our guests, just kind of talking about where you were. Obviously, Ohio State, right? D1, big school, huge, right? That's a feat in itself just to be on that team, I'm sure. Where
Yeah.
were you at when it came to your religious, like where were you at with your walk with Christ before coming onto campus? Is it something that you already had pretty well established and maybe by joining the team it grew, or just however you want to, wherever you want to start with that? You could go back to birth if you want, you know?
Yes, yes. So, I grew up in a very small town, not so small now, but a small
Mm.
town in Florida called Claremont, which
Yeah.
is about 20 miles west of Orlando. And really was so blessed to grow up in a family that loved the Lord, and their mission was just to make his name known. We always call my grandma, Esther Abuela, we always call her
Mm.
our prayer warrior of the family. Like, I remember, like, from the youngest age, like, like, I was just not having a good attitude. Wella would come over and would anoint me with oil and pray the Holy Spirit over me. And, that's how that behavior,
Love
went
it.
away and
Grandma.
everything.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Love her so much. And really just grew up in the church just from such an early age. Like, my distinct memory of my first time taking notes, the church we were at the time was Real Life. And I remember Bethany Hamilton came in and
Mm.
spoke, and I believe it literally can remember the date, August 3rd, or I'm so sorry, October 3rd, she came in and she spoke to us, and that was like the first time I took notes in church. I'm like, wow, like, this is just so fulfilling in like so many different ways. And at the time I was like 10 or 12 and like didn't fully understand the magnitude yet, to that I know it to be now.
Yeah.
But really just loved being in the church. I served in the kids rooms there, with like my mom, and my sister also helped like with like the prep team. My dad was a usher there, so just really encapsulating just all of that, and just really had a servant heart at such a young age. And through that, and started gymnastics when I was 7. And even through gymnastics, I had crazy mental blocks like no other. Like, wouldn't even do a back walkover on the floor, like, let alone like, that's a flat surface, my hands can't miss the floor, like, that's a big square of carpet. And just through faith was able to work through a lot of those things, which I think if it didn't have faith, I probably would have quit at a very early age.
Mhm.
um, but really just through that, got to dive deeper into faith, and truly found my own journey with the Lord, in 8th grade. Was going through some big wrist injuries. I had actually just broken my wrist for the first time like a week or two before that. And I was like, oh, like, why don't you just go to youth group tonight? Like, you get out of practice early since like you can't practice full time right now. Like, I'll pick you up. I'll pick you up with some dinner and I'll go and drop you off. Like, people there. I said, okay, sure. I'll go do that. And went, and they played the song Oceans, and I just started
Mm.
sobbing. And I was like, whoa, like, I think I just like fully encountered like the Holy Spirit and like the Lord on my own. Like, this is so interesting. And I just remember getting back in the car. My mom's like, how was it? I was like, yeah, like, I was just still so just in shock and like in awe of what happened. And from that point on, I mean, just gymnastics and injuries itself was just super crazy and different, especially in the recruiting process. So, and that was really the pivoting point of my faith and truly just strengthened going into college. So I came into college with pretty much an established faith, but still was kind of lukewarm in some areas of just not being consistent, getting in the word every day. And my big thing was like, I wasn't really vocal about it. Not that
Mhm.
I wasn't scared, but I wasn't making his name known as much as I could have been and coming into a university that is literally placed like on a pedestal for some people. Like
Mhm.
they don't call the Ohio State University like one of the top universities athletically, fan base wise, academically for a reason. So truly was able to come in with a pretty established faith, but one I even look back now and I'm like, wow, like I thought that was established faith. Like then what I'm walking in now is like night and day.
Yeah.
So it's just been so fruitful so far.
That's amazing, and I think too, you said coming into Ohio State, obviously that's a big school
Yeah.
and in a big city,
Yes.
and I mean, there's all kinds of individuals on campus, so
Mhm.
I'm curious, was it something that when you came on campus, did you immediately find a friend group or people that shared your faith, or did it like, I'm sure it's challenging. I'm sure there's not everyone on campus is praising the Lord, And so, like mentioned, your whole family goal is to make his name known. And then you
Mhm.
coming in realizing, wow, this is a large school. This is a large athletic team. I have a platform here. And like, how did you kind of like build up those steps to start being more courageous and sharing that?
Yes. So, in coming from a very small town, like everybody knew everybody in my town. Like, oh,
Mhm.
Betty Sue knew Susie over here. So everybody was pretty intertwined. So, in coming to a completely new city, state, 800 miles away from home, and I'm very much of a family person,
Mhm.
uh, and very much of a homebody as well. So, even just like the little things of like I can't have a home cooked meal tonight. Like I have to go to like the dining hall. Like, oh, like just little things like I took for granted before.
Yeah.
But really in coming onto the team here, the culture was very different than it is now on the team. There was really me and like two other girls that were truly walking out in faith. Those two being Emma Pritchard and Zoe Schweitzer, which now Zoe and I, through my freshman year, I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but really is the one that got me to be vocal in my faith. Ironically enough, I came on my visit my senior year of high school and was like, oh, okay, like I'm going to be with this girl for my recruit visit. That girl ended up getting sick, and I ended up rooming with Zoe on my
Okay.
recruit visit. And her and I were actually talking about this like a couple weeks ago. Like, wow, like she's like, wait, wasn't I your host on your recruit visit? I was like, yeah, we sat in your apartment, talked about the Lord, and then we went to sleep and went to the football game the next day. She's like,
Perfect.
wow. And like now it's like 4 years later and she's living in Atlanta and we're still, just super
Awesome.
close friends, like truly a sister in Christ. So she really led me to be vocal in my faith and the path on the team as well that she planted before I even got there.
Mhm.
It's kind of how we were able to be, just really be able to edify his name to where we have now a full team Bible study of about half the girls on the team, and now even being medically retired and removed gymnastically from the team, just still getting to be a line of faith for the girls.
I love that. And I remember, I feel like when we talked earlier, you had mentioned there was, Ohio State has their big fall, like revival. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you mentioned a teammate getting baptized there this year.
Yes.
So what's
Yes.
that like on campus, that revival? That's gotta be
It like, you would just have to come onto campus to be
okay.
able to witness it. I mean, it is truly just so like, I can't even put it into words.
Wow.
Even, like, when I came on campus, like, I'm sure everybody knows Ohio State's known for, study hard, party harder. But really, I feel like that narrative has changed within these last couple of years, especially um, very big credit goes out to the people on the football team, like your Travion
Mhm.
Henderson, Emeka Ibuka,
Mhm.
just people like that truly being obedient in their faith and using the platform of being an Ohio State D1 athlete to the fullest potential and for, the right reasons. Because especially with
Mhm.
NIL coming in, like
Yeah.
it can be easier to get distracted by your
Totally.
platform now, because now money is attached to it and we're called not to have money be our master. So just being able to separate that and use the platform for its full potential. And I was able to be like more of a part of the revival this year and like passing out flyers and,
Mhm.
being able to capture some of the content and just witnessing the people getting baptized. And I remember one of my teammates came up, was like, "Oh my gosh, so and so just got baptized." And just remember just sobbing and like seeing her and like just being able to give her the biggest hug because I don't know if like even a year, like 2 years ago, if I would ever be able to witness it, but it's something me and my roommate have always prayed over heavily. And like I've even like the Lord very much speaks to me in visions and even something I envisioned for the team, whether I was still on the team or even after being removed. And yeah, I mean, it is just all around Columbus too, you have, Run Club, like Run with Christ, who's
Mhm.
truly making the Lord's name known and now going, across the US with their run clubs and just all these different things that are truly just making such an impact for the kingdom.
Absolutely. Absolutely love that. So, awesome you brought up the revival and stuff. Yeah, obviously wanted to talk about that. So, it's great. Obviously, you referenced, the football team, Travion and Emeka and stuff. Those are, individuals, a little bit more, I call it national TV and stuff, kind of that spotlight and stuff. And I remember seeing and hearing a lot of what they've said and, a lot of the country, and it's just, like, so authentic and real and inspiring and, like, literally tying everything back to Jesus for, like, the most simple football question, still tying it back to Jesus. It's so cool to hear. So wanted to ask, with the revival the last 2 years, I don't know. Do you feel like there's a bigger sense? Can you tell like a more tangible sense before and after that, the last 2 years, call it, uh, 2 years ago before the first revival took place compared to now? Where do you think, I don't want to say the culture, but the spirit maybe of Ohio State is in their faith life? Do you feel like it's like really impacting the students before and after? Can you like feel the difference, or I don't know. What are your thoughts before these revivals, after, in the
I
spirit of
think you could
OSU?
really feel just the favor that the Lord has on the university. I mean, you see it, we even like tying it back to football, like most people thought after we lost to Michigan, there's no way that we're making it. And the Lord still had favor because the players were being obedient to their calling and making his name known, and being prophetic in that. And I just think even too, like walking around on campus, like I have like, some like sweatshirts, like the one I was wearing today was like our world needs like more Jesus um and stuff like that. And like people like look at you and like they acknowledge you like, "Oh my gosh, like I love your hoodie." Whereas to before,
Oh,
like not that it would be this like kind of like look and then be like, "Oh, okay, like
Yeah.
just
whatever."
kind of a
A
passive look. It's
hoodie.
more of like an active, like,
Yeah.
Yes.
engagement, right?
Correct. Yeah. And
That
that is
is
just something so different and beautiful too. And being able to talking about it openly in class. Like, I have
yeah,
conversations about it with classmates now. They're like, "Oh my
yeah.
gosh," like, one girl, there's also, university ministry called SALT. She goes, "Wait, like, I've seen you at SALT, I've seen you at Run with Christ, and, like, oh my gosh, we have a class together," like, and we're like, "Okay, we're, like, best friends now," you know? So, just different things like that where I don't know if those conversations would still I think they would still happen, but being at the rate they are and the amount that they are now, I'm not sure if that would be the same way, without the
Love
revival.
it.
I can totally see that, and, to me, that just seems like the foundation slowly being built brick by brick, and who knows what's gonna happen next year after next year's revival, if, it's slowly going to build up to, just talking about it more and more. And I feel like those are baby steps of just like
Mhm.
acknowledging a Jesus shirt, right? And,
Yeah.
being
Yes.
excited about it. That's like a huge step, at a public university,
Mhm.
right? Huge step,
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
huge step in the right direction and everything. So, um, this kind of ties into another question too. So, from the time you got to Ohio State, right? Obviously, very faithful, ingrained in your faith and everything. But you mentioned maybe not as outspoken about it, which is normal, for a lot of Christians, right? Not to feel like they have that like megaphone in the
Sure.
cafeteria or or student union and stuff. There's that difference of the megaphone standing on a table and, preaching the gospel at lunch, right, compared to getting there. So, um, how do you think you've changed maybe, now? I know you mentioned Bible studies, right, but, being more vocal, right, about your faith and a little bit more proactive with besides
Mhm.
the megaphone and student union, right, what do
Mhm.
you think there?
I just think fully accepting and fully realizing that the best story of the Lord you can tell is your testimony, and being able to share my story with those around me, because I mean, really, it's just a plethora of injuries that truly led me to give my life to the Lord because my identity was in sport before I ended up retiring,
Mhm.
and getting some wild surgeries, and everything too. So I really just think that, just being so confident in his ability and realizing that the Lord was mocked. Jesus was mocked as he was walking his cross to go and die for the people that were mocking him, going and dying for their sins, even
Mhm.
though they're the ones that are mocking him and making him go and do this. Um, and just really realizing that there's nothing anybody can say that's going to separate me from his love.
Yeah.
Even like my sin, like it could be simple sin, it could be, whatever it may be. Sin is sin. And at the end of the day, like repenting of that and being able to, and confessing that to others and walking with people in their burdens as well. I think that's something so beautiful, but when you're walking with them in their burdens, making sure you're leading them to the cross with those burdens, not just staying stagnant and holding it with them right there. I
Mhm.
think it's just something so beautiful, and it's truly helped me to grow in my faith as well, and just being able
Mhm.
to ask people like the hard questions, or not having it be so surface like, "Oh, like, how are you? Oh, good, good." Being like, "No, like, how are you doing?" And, like,
Mhm.
being intentional with conversations with people because with that intentional and with that true love behind the questions, you're able to help them and lead them to the Lord, easier as well.
That's
Love it.
awesome. And um this is more of a, spiritual question than like we'll get back to sports in a second, but with the revivals or what have you the last few years, are you seeing more so kind of Christians just kind of been lukewarm in their faith just like reviving, or have you seen even atheists or agnostics, right? Have you been a part of those conversations of like truly like lifting the blinders off of them? I mean, have you seen anything like that take place or been around others that have helped
I have
them, or
definitely seen it and like heard a lot about that around campus for sure. I mean, there's even a girl on our team that like how she grew up, they weren't allowed to go to church.
Wow.
oh
Um
man.
and she came to church with us for a couple of times, and just like being able to see just the interest.
Yeah.
I mean it takes a mustard seed,
Mhm.
to have it grow. And just being able to witness that, like, that's something, like, I was blessed enough to, my parents, brought me to church, like, every Sunday, and realizing that that's not everybody's story, and being able to meet them where they are at
Mhm.
in that journey, whether they have never heard the name of Jesus, whether they are, kind of living that double life, which most people are, and even I was guilty of for so long, and had to come to the realization to, or like fully walking out in faith. Just meeting people where they are and like how you can support them and walk alongside them to where they're not alone in that, I think is so special.
Absolutely. That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Obviously a great example of that's so sad, obviously not even allowed to go to church, for example, and um starting to do that. And getting back into sports, unless you had a follow-up
No,
there?
I
Nothing?
got
Okay.
sports questions.
Okay,
That's
okay.
why we have a notebook and pen here, because as we're both talking, we'll think of 800 other things. But
Yes.
Love
Yes.
it.
but
Was just gonna well, tie into sports, right? Down to gymnastics, right?
Yes.
Um, your faith in gymnastics, how did you have any kinda, like, pre-meet, prayer kinda, anything like that, pre-rep prayer, post-rep prayer, team prayer? What that all look like at gymnastics
All
with
the
your
prayer. Oh my
Okay.
gosh. Like
Okay.
I like even in club, like I think the most distinct memories of me, like in gymnastics growing up, was me and my dad would always pray before every single meet. And that was something
Beautiful.
so special. So and coming to college where I wasn't with my parents before a meet and like sometimes, I have 2 sisters at home that were in school and everything too, and, like, one would get to come, maybe the other one, like, they would kinda, like, switch off, but, somebody was always there, but not being able to sit with them and, like, pray with them before a meet was definitely an adjustment at first, but when I got into, like, the rhythm of, okay, I would go and I would take my journal. I'm very much somebody that writes my prayers out. So I would go take my journal, put on my headphones, blasting worship music the whole time before we even go out for warm-ups. And I would go sit in a quiet stairwell where nobody was, and I would write out my prayers for the day. And majority it was the synopsis of it was like, Lord, like, this is your stage. Use me to where somebody walks out of here today changed by faith. And that was always my prayer. It was never like, oh, Lord, like when I was, very much had my identity still in gymnastics. It was like, okay, Lord, like I want to be all American. I want to win this, this, and this. And quickly realized I had to humble myself to that because, you know, it was not what the plan the Lord had for me.
Right.
But really just always, prayed, did that before. And also too before I went out, before anybody else went into the arena, I went out there, played the same song, Lion by Elevation Worship, and I would walk the whole arena and all the equipment, and I would pray a circle of prayer around the equipment and was just asking the Lord, like, anybody who walks into this circle today, that they walked out changed through faith, through you, like, they get to know who you are. And even, like, I'm sure, like, a lot of my teammates maybe have been like, "Why is she walking
yeah,
circles?"
what's she
Yeah.
doing?
But,
That's
like,
the
even too,
coolest
like,
thing.
praying over the people that even walk into the building, like, that they may come out of here changed, like, or there's something that sparks their interest to go to church on Sunday or
Mhm.
whatever it may be to have that conversation, like, that was one of my biggest prayers, especially within my junior season, going into it, kinda knowing it was gonna be my last season, um, just really continuing to circle it in prayer and, like, even before I went, like, actually competed, so my sophomore year, I competed vault for half the season, and then because I came into season late due to injury, and then didn't get to compete postseason due to a concussion, but
Oh,
even, like, within that, I would pray before I touch the equipment, would pray before I warm up, like, my key words were, "Yes, you can," like, just do like the Lord has you, and then I would go. Like it was just something that was always so prevalent in my gymnastics journey because I was at the point where my body couldn't do it anymore. So I needed the strength of the Lord to even
yeah.
do a flip because of especially my junior year of how much pain I was in because my body was rejecting the hardware that was in my arm. And even like last year, we did a team prayer before we marched out at the competition. And even sometimes before events, girls would come to me. They're like, "Can you just pray with me before I go and compete?" And be like, "Yes."
That's
And like
awesome.
look at them, hold them like flat out in the middle of the meet, pray with them. They would go stick the landing, and I'm like, "Ah, look what God just did." Like, amen,
Yeah.
sister. You know, and like keep
Yeah.
going through the meet. Um, and I would look myself in the mirror. I don't even know. Like we kind of talked about this, but like I never really told anybody. I would go to the
Mm.
bathroom
We're
before
getting
I went.
exclusive information here. Good.
Yes, like I would go to the bathroom and there was always, of course, we're girls, there's a full length mirror in there. And I would go, I would close my eyes in front of the mirror, do my whole floor routine, like arms, visualization, like feeling everything, look myself in the mirror. I said, "Yes, you can. God's got you." Fist bump myself in the mirror and then walk out and go compete. And I never
That's the
missed
coolest.
one routine that year. So
Wow.
just things like that. And started doing, like, when I really was just hurting so bad, and
Mhm.
I you know, I just was like, "Lord, I physically can't do this anymore, like, if this is what you're calling me to do, I need your strength." And just being able to, like, admit that to him, and, like, I even had to admit that to my teammates. I'm like, "Guys, like, I know there's nobody else, like, and I probably shouldn't even be doing this myself, but, like, I'm going to do this for you guys as, like, just like to thank you guys for everything you've done for me over the years and just to be able to serve you in a different way than I normally would be."
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, faith for me, especially within college athletics, was everything. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what got me so far. And that's the only thing that got me so far because when I tried to take control, I always got injured and was always taken out.
Me too.
So so
In
yes,
life,
I
not
mean
gymnastics.
Um,
so yes, I mean prayer, journaling, talking with girls about faith, like even in signing posters, like every signature I wrote, and I still do this to this day, if like somebody asks for like a signature, I like write like first name, last name, and then Mark 9:23 below it. Cause like that's the verse I wrote on my arm and like had some people ask me about it. So I always started to then write the verse on the poster. And I strategically put myself at the end of the line so that I wouldn't be holding up the line. And also if somebody wanted to ask, like, "Oh, what's this?" Like I could have a conversation with them about it.
I love
wow.
that. That's a really important verse for me too. So
Is that
for
the
that's the one with
I believe, but
help
my
my
my unbelief.
unbelief.
Yep.
I
Mhm.
always had Mark 9:24 because mine, yeah, it's about you. But yeah, but I get that whole
Yes.
team
And
Mark.
that was the coolest few minutes there, Mallory. And as you were,
Yeah.
talking and everything, I'm like, I'm not the least bit surprised you're the FCA Female Athlete
Yeah, no
of the
joke.
Year in Ohio and everything. I'm like praying over, the gym, praying over, the mat, the equipment, praying that, someone leaves changed faith wise and
Mhm.
grows closer to you because of, the event today. That's the coolest thing ever. And like the epitome of embodying Christ in sports. So, like, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome, awesome
Yeah.
stuff
I
there.
I
So
think I had a couple questions, so I do wanna talk more too, like, I wanna get into, like, kinda you overcoming that injury and how that led you to what you're doing now and your perspective of that, but when you're talking about praying
Mhm.
over everything, this is a question that I just like to ask, right? Because athletes are competitive, you wanna
Yes,
win. You're obviously competing against other people,
correct.
so tell us how you kind of view, right? I'm sure you're still praying for safety and everything,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
how does that work? I always love this question with athletes because you want to win and you want to kick butt, but
Yeah.
also
Yes. I think something too. So we have like a student athlete Bible study called Cross Sports, and something that one of the coaches was talking about a couple weeks ago was like we're called to give our all in the gift that the Lord has given us.
Mhm.
So, like, yes, go give your all to gymnastics, but do it out of the willingness of the Lord, knowing that it's a gift, not who you are. So,
Yeah.
I think that's something that I started to embody. Like, I'm going to give this 110% today for the Lord, not for me, not for accolades, not for a medal, not for like whatever it may be. Gymnast of the week, like, that's a big thing for gymnastics in college. Like, not doing it for that, but doing it to make his name known. Because at the end of the day, like, if I suck at gymnastics, like, people
Mhm.
aren't gonna be like, "Oh, like, why does she suck? Like, no, that's
Yeah.
not a question people would be asking.
Yeah.
So truly being able to do that. And even when it comes to opponents, like, Lord, you have your way. Like, I would love to win, yes, but if that's not in your plan, then that's not in your plan. And I have to accept that and I have to die to my flesh and humble myself in that. And also like the jealousy part of too, like the
Mhm.
jealousy part of it, like that's not a fruit of the spirit. So if I'm truly walking in faith, I'm not going to be jealous over another team that's
Yeah.
winning. Like,
Yep.
yes, I may be frustrated and have feelings, but feelings flee, you know,
Mm.
and everything like that. So it's just being able to humble yourself where the Lord has you and just being able to be like, okay, like that was their day. Maybe they really needed that from the Lord just to continue whatever it may be in their journey that we don't know about.
Yeah. Not to put you on the spot with an exact situation, or like maybe if you can recall a certain time or like event, meet,
Mhm.
whatever competition it was where you're just, I really wanted this one and I didn't get it. Like, I don't, was there one at the top that stands out where you just really had to step back? It's still for you,
Yeah.
Lord,
Yes. I mean, there's
Mhm.
kind of two. I
Okay.
would say both of them are regionals. One regional was my freshman year, and we missed going to nationals and being in the Elite Eight by point 1, like, of
Okay.
pointed toe or, like, 2
Oh
pointed
man.
toes, like and just something as simple as that was like, wow, like, I wasn't even competing, but, like, we everything came together for our team at that one moment, and I still think, like, in my whole career at Ohio State that was one of my favorite meets. Just being able to see the heart the girls had for each other, and truly we left it all out on the floor. But at the end of the day, like we were able to walk away knowing that we left it all out on the
Yeah.
floor. And maybe if we were to have gotten that, our egos would have been boosted too big and the Lord wouldn't have been
Mhm.
glorified at that moment if we were to
Right.
have made it there. So maybe that's not why we made it. Um, and even this past year, again, regionals, we this past year went through definite season of injury on our team. We had 4 girls go out with major things that were out for the whole season. So
Yeah.
just being able to step up, I think out of a team of how many did we have last year? 18. We had 11 girls competing at the end of the year.
Wow.
That's a lot
Like,
of injuries.
yes, it was definitely a lot. So we were just so hungry for making it feel like it was worthwhile when, at the end of the day, like we did the best that we could with what we had. And everybody throughout the whole season had the perspective of like, I'm doing it for the person next to me. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know when, like, if I could get injured and I don't have that opportunity. So just like having that heart in it as well. But golly, like, we wanted to make it to that second day. Like, that was like making it to the second day was like, okay, like, we did what we were supposed to do. And unfortunately, we just didn't. And it was, I think, hard for a lot of girls because they're like, well, you know, it would have been different if X, Y, and Z didn't happen this year, and just a lot of
Mhm.
that. But I think for me, like that was my last competition ever.
Mm.
And
Oh.
like I didn't even do my best at the competition, but I'm like, you know what? I made the most of what I did with the day.
Yeah.
And, I still had a smile on my face. I
Mhm.
got to go out with a bang. I got to compete with like freaking Olympians on the floor. Like I got
Yeah.
to compete on one of the biggest stages within college athletics, and not everybody gets to say they did that. So being able to
Yeah.
take a different perspective, even though yes, it was frustrating as a collective, um, but being like, you know what, there's a reason that it happened, and I still got the opportunity to compete, and not everybody gets to say they did that.
Yeah.
Especially a lot of the girls on our team with injuries last year. So just being able to be grateful for the things that were in our control and disregarding the ones that weren't.
Absolutely. I think we both want to
We're
say
both
something.
are like, yeah. No, go ahead. I was just gonna comment on that too, because I know I'd mentioned this to you before, but I think like everything that you've just been talking about, and even just that last experience as well. You talked about like obviously like you're still in college, right? This young age, like learning that maturity, that emotional, spiritual maturity so young, because you're right, like so much happens in life that you can't plan for, you know what I mean? But I feel like, wow, you're building so much more important reps in your faith, right? Because as you grow and you get to be 30, 40, 40 is really young though,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? I just think like
Yeah.
that's why we love this so much, is because I think sports gives people such a great opportunity to build their faith. As
Mhm.
silly as some people may think that sounds, like that's what we believe so
Yeah.
wholeheartedly. And I think everything you're saying is just kind of like that embodiment. And as you know what I mean? And then obviously the people that you're going to meet along the way in your professional careers, that you'll be able to, the torch you're still going to be carrying. It doesn't end when you leave Ohio State athletics, and you don't have the athletic platform that you have now. You're always an athlete. You always have this mindset. You always are Christian first and have that. So that's just not a question or a rant. It's just kind of like a compliment to you, because I think you show so much emotion, like so much maturity, and I think that's really great for the people that you're going to come in contact with in the rest of your life, and it's just going to grow.
Mhm.
So
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
ditto. And I don't know, the one of the parallels that comes to me when you mentioned, talking about the injuries, right? From 18 down to 11, and just like, all right, offering it up. This is what we have. The whole 5 loaves and 2 fishes, right?
yeah.
Kind of parallel is just using what you got, and
Mhm.
asking Jesus to multiply and do what he can, of course, with it. So just using what we got there. So that's awesome.
Mhm.
Oh, go ahead.
And I was just gonna like tie in, obviously the sports element of like handling defeat and everything, and you're a student athlete now, but like won't be forever. Tying that into the real world, we're telling you, like, all student athletes listening, like, that kind of mindset, like, there's going to be so many obstacles, right? And you hear about them and you think it's kind of cliche to talk about, but you have to be ingrained, right? You have to be ingrained. So, like, that's the perfect attitude to have,
Mhm.
because there's going to be a lot of failures that come in life. There's going to be a lot of things that don't go your way. There's going to be a lot of things where you were so close, on the business proposal, or, the meeting, or, you just didn't get this sale, whatever it is. You're going to be so close, and it's just going to happen time and time and time and time and time again. Right.
All for a
So,
reason.
all for a reason. So, that's awesome. You can, have that kind of, faith in sports, knowing you're going to need to carry it with you, for the rest of your life and everything. So I absolutely love that. So, mhm.
Yes.
And so I
Good.
think lastly too, as we're coming up here to an end here soon, unless you want to talk for 5 hours, I'm fine with that. I think we could. But I kind of want to check like where you're at now, right? Because you did have to make that choice to medically retire. I know you'd mentioned you had a friend that kind of helped mentor you through that, someone who'd been there before, and kind of what that looks like now that you're on the team, like you're their teammate, right? But maybe just not competing right now, like kind of how that looks a little different, knowing that you're not gonna go, I wish I knew words, do a tumble, quadruple, backflip, flippy doodah
Yes.
thing.
Yes, I
Yeah.
think
A handstand.
yeah. Yeah, all the things. I really think, so I kinda talked about my retirement a little bit. So, going into my sophomore year, well, freshman year, I'll just start kind of at the beginning and kind of give a synopsis of everything. So I came into college here with some pretty bad Achilles pain. Didn't really know the cause of it. Ended up finding out I had an extra piece of bone that was tearing my Achilles up and down. So it was a little bit harder to see on the MRI. So I ended up getting surgery my freshman year to get that piece of bone taken out, and like kind of fix some of the tearing that was there. So it was completely out for my freshman year. And I was one of 5 girls that were out with pretty severe injuries that year. And a lot of them were taking the woe is me mindset. And I was like, I'm here. Like, this
Mhm.
is a great gift. Like,
Right.
I want to still contribute and find a way to contribute since I can't compete. I can't contribute on the physical level and in the lineup level. So came out of surgery and went into the gym the next day after my surgery because it was the Halloween Inner Squad. Actually, my surgery date was 2 days ago, for that
Oh,
surgery, and, went in, and one of my fellow freshmen who was on the team, and she was competing all around, she was on beam, and before she went for her series, I'm like, "Yes, you can, Peyton." Goes and nails it. And my coach looks at me, and like I was very, very shy my freshman year. Like I did not talk at all, which like now people look at me that come in,
Yeah.
they're like, "What? You were quiet?" I said, "Yes, I was." And so said that. My coach looks at me, she goes, "You need to say that every time now." And that started a whole thing on the team of yes, you can. So I said it for Peyton before every series on beam. Never missed a beam routine that year at all. Ended up going to nationals. And she was like, "I'm not going if you're not there." So then, like, all the other girls were like, "You are just such a big help." Like, I was moving bar mats, I was helping, with different things. And truly, I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to make it to where these girls won't go if I'm not there because
Yeah.
I want to be involved and I want to be a contributor in a different way. So I got to travel over a lot of the girls that have been on the team longer than me. Um, and I wasn't doing it just to say, "Oh, get to
Yeah.
travel." No, I was doing it because I wanted to make an impact on these girls in a different way than, you know, majority you would think of on a collegiate gymnastics team. So was able to do that my freshman year. And then going into my sophomore year that summer, I've kind of always had some wrist pain, as I kind of talked about before. In 8th grade, broke my wrist for the first time. I was very stubborn with injuries though growing up. So when I got out of the cast, I'm like, all right, back to everything. Let's go.
yep.
And all of that. So that was kind of always a thing throughout my high school time and like doing gymnastics and being in level 10. So going into sophomore year was like, oh, like told my trainer, I'm like, hey, like my wrist is bothering me a bit, like whatever. She's all right, like let's just get some imaging and then we'll set you up an appointment for Monday. Got the imaging done on Friday, went in on Monday. At the same time, I had fractured my navicular, so also had an appointment that same Monday, an hour before, to see if I needed a pin and screw
Nice.
in my foot for that. So I had 2 big appointments on this Monday in July. And go into the foot one, they're like, "No, like it's okay, like we'll just give it time to rest. Like let us know how this foot like the wrist one goes because we could even just do both surgeries at once." I was like, "That seems terrifying, but okay." So then go into the wrist appointment and they're like, "Yeah, you're gonna need surgery. But there's 2 options. You can do one that fixes, take out this piece of bone and fix the tearing that you have, or you can do one that fixes everything. But the one that fixes everything, there's a 75% chance you'll never be able to do gymnastics again."
Oh,
And telling that to an athlete that has worked her whole life to get
Yeah.
to college athletics, and really in any sport, telling that to somebody who loves their sport, like that is a punch to the gut. But I remember sitting there being like, I'm getting everything done. The Lord is going to provide a way for me to compete again. I'm going to get everything done. And went into surgery that Friday. And I didn't tell the doctor my decision until Thursday, and sat down with the doctor and my dad because my dad flew up for the surgery. And I looked the doctor in the face. I said, I'm getting everything done. He goes, "Do you know the consequences of this?" I said, "I do, but the Lord will provide." And like like,
You said that to the doctor.
Mhm.
Nice.
Oh, yes, I said it to the doctor. And, like, my dad was there, and he was like, like, at the end of the day, it's your body, and it's your call, and the Lord, if he's calling you to do this, then you need to do it."
Yeah.
And there was I mean, I could really just list off a massive list of people that were like, "You're crazy. What are you doing? You're throwing away your athletic abilities. Like, you're never gonna come back from this. Like, why would you do such a thing? Like, do you not care anymore?" Like, all of these things that were just not true and just not the Lord. And went into the surgery Friday. Like, I remember my coach was telling my roommate, she's like, "She's gonna be in a lot of pain. Like, please just take care of her and, like, call her, have her call me, like, if it's really bad. I woke up from surgery, never felt an ounce of pain. I did not take any pain medications, and I got a 7-inch plate and 7 screws put
Good
into my arm.
grief.
Wow.
Yes. Amongst other things that they fixed. Because I had 3 tears to my TFCC, which is a group of ligaments, and then I also had a piece of bone that broke off, grew back crooked, and it was bone to bone hitting on this side here with no cartilage. Um, so just like a lot of things, and woke up from the surgery, no pain. Was able to make a full recovery. People thought I was, like, crazy. They're like, "Are you sure you're fine?" I'm like, "Yeah, guys, I'm fine." Ended up making a full recovery, and competed vault, um, 2 years to the day of the last time I competed that same vault, which is just crazy how it fell on the
Yeah.
same day. Like, what an amazing God that we
Yeah.
call our Father, because only He could, match it up like that. But competed for the first time then, and competed throughout the rest of the season. As I kept going through season, the pain kinda started to set in, but not bad.
Mhm.
It was pretty manageable.
Yeah.
Got to the end, got a concussion, unfortunately, at Big Tens from having too much power and running into my coach, and we both, butted heads and stuff, but,
Oh, no.
um, it's just a funny story we tell
Yeah.
now. Um, and ultimately went back into summer and was like, "Okay, like, the pain's really starting to set in, like, let's just take some time off." Reworked all my routines. So, I worked a completely new vault that didn't hurt my wrist at the time at all. Learned that, it was great. They're like, "Wow, like, really coming back full force, like, absolutely love this." In September, the pain kinda started to hit, but bad. And it was like one day I went to my trainer, I'm like, "Oh, like, my wrist is starting to hurt again." And she's like, "Okay, like, let's just, do this." And then I came the next day, I'm like, "It's bad." Like, it was like overnight switch. Um, and over time got to the point where I couldn't hold anything in my left hand. I couldn't type on the computer more than 15 minutes without feeling pain. I couldn't sleep, like, even sleeping, like, was just constant, like, pain.
Yeah.
Um, and it just felt so weak. Like, I would, like, push off of something and it would, like, completely give out. Like, I wouldn't be able to do what I used to do. And I remember praying to the Lord this one night before practice, like, on, like, a Saturday. And I said, "Lord, I feel you're telling me to medically retire, but I don't wanna do something that's out of your will. Please make it to where I know this is you telling me and not me just wanting to run away from the pain." And I said, "Freaking smack me in the face, make me almost get injured. I don't care. Like, I
Just
just
tell
need
me.
I can't I can't don't give me a reason not to believe you," type thing.
Mhm.
Oh, and did he humble me. I went into practice the next day, landed short on 3 of my passes, and completely wiped out on 1. And I remember, and I didn't tell anybody really what was going on at this point. Um, and I just remember crying, being like, "It's done. Like, this is going to be my last season, whether that was my last practice or not. Like, I'm gonna end up retiring." And I remember pulling my trainer aside, sobbing. I said, "I'm done. I can't do it anymore. I'm going to be like, this is what the Lord is telling me to do. This is specifically what I prayed, and then this is, I mean, you saw me. This is flat out what happened today." Um, and talked to my coach, and she's like, "All right, like, it's pretty emotional time. Like, let's take a month." Took the month, had one surgery date set in January. She's like, "Okay, like, you know, let's maybe, wait another month, and, we can, maybe just start working like some no armed passes on floor." I'm like, "Girl, I'd never front tumbled in my life." Like, and like going from, I was a strict back tumbler, great back twister, very much quick twitch gymnastics. And I was like, "Okay," I was just kind of one of those people, like, coach says something to do, like, all right,
Yeah.
I'll give it a shot. What's the worst that can happen? And I postponed the surgery again. And throughout that month, I learned a whole no handed floor routine. And even within this time, I think at this point we had 3 girls that went out with major injuries. And we were competing on a Sunday and my surgery was the following Wednesday. And I remember my mom was asking me like the night before the competition, because I was exhibitioning floor. And for those who don't know, exhibitioning means you go, you do the floor routine or you do the event. You get a score, but the score does not count towards the team at all. So it's like just to kind of like gauge where you're at to see like if next week you'll be in. So me and my mom are chatting. She's like, "You're not getting the surgery on Wednesday." I said, "No, mom, like I'm done being in pain, like whatever." And she goes, "All right, we'll see about that." And I just remember being like, who are you to tell me this? Like, come on, mom. Like, you know that I'm in so much pain. And ultimately went into the meet the next day. And I remember praying before. I said, "Lord, if this is my last time, thank you for everything that you've done. But if it's not, make it known that you have something greater in store." Um, when we were warming up, warm-ups went great, then it's time to go back and we do like a touch before we compete. And one of the girls was like, "Oh my gosh, my ankle just popped." She goes, "I can't go." And I was like, "Wait, that I have to go." And I was like, "Okay." Like, and I even prayed before too. I was like, "Lord, like, if you want me to continue going, make this song play when I land and just let it be known." And sure enough, we're in the huddle before and my coach is there. He's like, "All right, Mallory, yep, you're now in the lineup, so and so, whatever happened, and you're in." And I was like, okay. And I just knew before going to do this floor routine, like, I'm not getting the surgery on Wednesday. And I went, did the floor routine, was crying after because it was my first time doing floor in 3 years after being told I would never be able to do gymnastics again. And learned a whole new floor routine just to be able to compete for these girls and for the team. And I just remember being done, like, I saluted and, like, I see my parents, they're crying. I look and my team's running towards me crying, and I'm just like, "Yeah, I can't not get I have to postpone my surgery." So I walked up to the coach after, I said, "Don't ask me any questions. Don't say anything. Like, I can't think about it any longer." I said, "I'm postponing my surgery. I'm not getting it Wednesday, and I will compete for you the rest of the season." And she was just like, what are you talking about?" I
So
said,
your mom
"Don't."
did know.
Yes, and I went to my mom
Moms are
after
right.
I went to my mom after me, I said, "Yeah, I'm not getting my surgery on Wednesday. I just told them that I'm postponing it." She goes, "And you
Mhm.
doubt." I said,
Of course.
"Again, mom's always right." So yes, and I ended up calling the girls in that following practice, so it would have been Tuesday, and told them, like, "Hey, like, I'm postponing my surgery to do this for you guys. However, I need your help. I physically can't do this by myself anymore. Like, I'm just going to need your guys' help to get through this. Like, don't talk about the pain like the best you can, or like, I don't mind you checking in on me, but like, I just really want to go out, just truly just feeling so much joy and just truly loving the gift that the Lord has given me." So went, competed the rest of the season, did like pretty great. I was like, "Gosh, like this is fun. Like, are you sure? Like, I can't stay a little bit more. Like, I like, doing some dances, all the things." But ultimately came to the end of season and made the decision to get the hardware taken out. And in doing that, um, it I physically probably could do what I did last year with the no hand stuff, but for what they were needing, I wouldn't be able to vault again because that bone is already so small and fragile that having 7 screw ports just willy-nilly in there with no screws in 'em anymore, would just be a very big risk. So ultimately went to my coach and was like, "Okay, like, I think that this is still gonna be the thing." I said, "I don't need any more accolades. There's no medal I need. There's no freshman of the week. Like, there's no medal, accolade, ring, anything that I need because my identity is not in the sport. And I want to give somebody else the opportunity that hasn't been able to compete because we had to cut 4 girls off of our team last year with all of the rule changes, with everything. And I'm like, I would rather medically retire and give somebody else the opportunity to experience what I have experienced than staying on the team for selfish matters and them getting cut. And I didn't really, like, tell her that fully till, like, kind of recently because I was, like, not being around the bush with it, but it was just very heavy for me, and I was still figuring a lot of things out. Um, but in just doing that, was able to give other girls an opportunity. I still got to go to Spain with everybody. Like, now
Of
I'm
course.
just content creator for the team. Uh, so was able to go to Spain and, we'll see if I travel and stuff this year with the girls, but
That'll be
just
fun.
really so grateful for the people I had around me during that time because without them there's no way I would have nearly enjoyed it and would have even been able to do it in the first place.
Wow.
Love that.
Long
Wow,
story
wow,
short.
wow.
I know that's a
Wow,
lot.
wow, wow. Well, no, it's hard to, wrap up a few years in a few minutes, so, and, give context and everything, and that was great, and,
Right.
I will say, and maybe people listening, I think there is a wild underestimation of gymnastics toughness that I'm learning. People hear about, football players going through all these injuries and stuff, which obviously, there's a, its own level of toughness needed there. But wow, you explaining the kind of level of toughness and the injuries, that gymnasts occur, and the mental fortitude that it's required to persevere through. I mean, whole new respect for me. I mean, I'm not a whole new. I don't know much about gymnastics, right? But that's awesome. Absolutely awesome. You're able to do that, and obviously, the Lord's guided you, to where you are now, right? So, um, absolutely beautiful. Thanks for sharing.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Thank you for giving me the platform to
Yeah.
share it. I mean, something that's so close to my heart and even in talking about it with other people, they're like, I don't have that same situation, but like that hits so close to home. Like even people that aren't in athletics. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
really grateful.
No, I love it. And I want to make sure too that we give you time if you do have anything else that you do want to add or advice you would give or anything to I mean Christian athletes of all age. We're talking I guess youth T-ball all the way up to even, professional
Yeah.
players if there's anything that you kind of feel called or led to share or say, in our final minutes here that we just want to make sure we always give someone the opportunity to share any important message that they have.
Not that you haven't
I
already,
know I was
because
gonna say I feel
everything's
like
been
I
like,
have like pages of notes
yeah.
and I'm like, man, I already know we're titling this episode Yes You Can. Like that's gonna be like I got a lot of great stuff, but I just want to make sure that we don't end this and then you're like, oh man, I wish I would have said this or mentioned this. So if there's anything that you wanted to share that we didn't talk about already or
I just think really something that I've realized coming, you know, being in sport and now, being removed from sport is your identity is truly so much greater. Like I cannot say enough on that. And like there is a God that gave his one and only son to die like a treacherous death like for you. And these gifts of sport, these gifts of your job, like those are gifts, and it's not a master. I
Mhm.
think that's something that is so important, because even, like, within my athletic career, there was a point where I had sport over the Lord, and that I was humbled very quickly, and just realizing things that happen, even though they may deemed bad in the eye of the world, they're deemed good in the Father because they lead you closer to Him. And I think too, like, even within that, the people that you have around you are so critical. Your community is so critical. Like, there's just not expressing that enough because who you are around is who people classify you with,
Mhm.
and how you evangelize the Lord's name and doing it out of a place of love. I think that's something I've really been tapping into recently is just the full love and joy of the Lord for others. Like, I'm not going to agree with everybody on everything, you know. I'm not going to agree with every girl on my team with everything, but being able to meet them where they are out of love and still in that, like, being able to edify the Lord's name to the highest ability, I think is just something so special. And no matter like if you are like on like a little like pee-wee team or, you know, any sport or like even in like the majors, like just something so simple as just saying Jesus. Like there's so much power in his name and just really, you know, being able to tap into that, I think is just something I would leave people with,
Yeah,
like,
love it.
just the power of the name, like, oh my gosh, like, it is just I could talk about it forever, but, you know, we'll
Yeah.
keep it short.
I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that's
y-
amazing.
we'll try. Yeah. Try to keep this short. And yeah, when you have someone as awesome, obviously, as Jesus, it's something you can ramble on extensively here. So
Yes.
um
Yes.
well, that's awesome, Mallory. Amazing story. Amazing witness for the Lord. Super congrats on an incredible OSU career. Competing, right, and now you're transitioning to something else, but can still have the same effect for the Lord, right? So, super awesome. Congrats on everything there. So, and thanks
Thank
for
you
hopping
so much.
on. So, um,
Yes.
I'll just say a quick prayer as we bring this in
Sure,
for
I'll
a
pray. Let's
close.
do it.
Just a little quick one. Um, God, thank you for this amazing day. Thank you for the gift of life. Thank you for the opportunity to live, love, grow, give, and serve our gifts for the greater good of this world. Please help us be all we were created to be. Help us be holy. Help us be saints. Amen.
Amen.
All
Amen.
right. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Thank you to our special guest, Mallory Gregory of Ohio State University Gymnastics. So,
The Ohio State University.
the Ohio State, forgot the E parts, but awesome. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Have a great day.